And welcome to Wrestling Collector Zone again. I have a new video that I want to introduce that I was setting down earlier today and watching through some of the WWE Network, because as you guys know, I had mentioned in one of my past videos, I had signed up again for the WWE Network and I signed up for the New Japan World, and I'm going to be doing a video later on that is comparing the two and which is a better deal. But I was going through some of the stuff that WWE has to offer now on the network, and it seems like since the last time I had the network, when I was subscribed before, they do have a lot more options of stuff to watch now and a variety. And one of my favorite things to always sit and watch when it comes to wrestling a lot of times is I like to sit down and I like to watch like documentary stuff, kind of behind the scenes, everything like that. And this wasn't really a behind the scenes, but at the same time it was a little bit. And it was a real short documentary. But I'm going to start the series anyways. Like I was saying, that I want to do like a weekly watch as to something I watched that I would suggest for you to check out if you haven't already seen it. And this one was it was a short 29-minute documentary called Holy Grail, the search for WWE's most infamous lost match. And this had debuted apparently on the network May 13th of 2019. And this was a very interesting documentary, short documentary, that it had the people that were on the documentary that had spoke were Bret Hart, Harry Smith, which that's British Bulldog's son. Sean Waltman was on there, which was also known as 123 Kid or X-Pac. Cassius Ohno, other words, you might also know him, that's his NXT name, but you also might know him in the independents as Chris Hero. Tyson Kidd, which is also related to the Harts. And then Tommy McGee was also on the end of this documentary towards the last 10 minutes or so, which this was actually talking about a match that happened in the late 80s, that it was Bret Hart versus Tommy McGee. And I had never heard of Tommy McGee at that point because I was so young at that point that even though my mom was watching wrestling and always had us watching wrestling, that I had never actually heard of Tommy McGee. And apparently he was signed to WWF for a very short stint of time, like a year or so, maybe two. But he had some matches that wasn't aired. And Tommy McGee, give a little bit of background on it. Tommy McGee was a wrestler that he was being trained up in Canada, and he was a pretty built guy, had good muscle, but he could actually do like backflips and cartwheels, all that good sorts of stuff. And at this point, Vince McMahon had been concerned / looking for a new wrestler to basically be the replacement of Hulk Hogan, because obviously if you're a smart businessman, you know wrestlers are going to move on. Also, they're not going to last forever. Eventually that wrestler's going to have to drop the title to someone else eventually and stuff like that. So he was looking for his next Hulk Hogan, his next, big wrestler. And he had went to Stu Hart because he dealt with Stu Hart a lot. And Stu Hart had suggested Tommy McGee. And the match that they're talking about, that's the Holy Grail match, that was lost for a very decades, was his first match in WWF. It was a tryout match, and it was Bret Hart versus Tommy McGee. At this point, Bret Hart wasn't, Bret the Hitman Hart, that big. He hadn't been the world champion up to that point, stuff like that. But Bret Hart, as we all know, has been a great wrestler. He has a great background of technical wrestling when he was growing up. He grew up in a wrestling family. He was trained by the wrestling family and by Stu Hart. He, in school, was a wrestler. He was meant to be, honestly, Bret Hart. If there was one person in this world that was actually meant to be in the wrestling business, it would have been Bret Hart. And so they had put Tommy McGee up against Bret Hart because they knew that Bret Hart could make Tommy McGee look good. And Bret Hart had talked about how he went to Tommy McGee and asked him, what is like your top 4 or 5 best moves, stuff like that. And he had told him, and Bret Hart said, okay, just do what I say, and basically we're going to make you a star. And they went out there, and this was Tommy McGee's first time being seen by like that large crowd and in WWF, but it was at a televised event, but it was a non-televised match. It was recorded, but it was not televised. And basically what happened was Bret Hart and Tommy McGee went out there and they just tore it up. And they actually, in this documentary, they do show the actual match, and this match is an amazing match. Honestly, it is really an amazing match. And in my opinion, I'm really surprised that Tommy McGee did not make it further than what he did. But apparently that, once he had wrestled Bret Hart, they had him wrestle some other non-televised matches, some televised matches here and there. He was sent over to like New Japan, stuff like that, wrestled in Japan. But apparently he ended up that they had let him go within like a year or so, and he just was not meant to be. He was not meant to be that big star that everyone thought he was going to be, and he was not that next Hulk Hogan. But what Cassius Ohno actually made a good point of, basically, out of this match, there was that next big star that WWF was looking for and Vince McMahon was looking for, but they were looking at the wrong person. And it wasn't Tommy McGee, it was Bret Hart. He was that next Hulk Hogan, basically that big character that would go on. And it took Bret Hart years to get there, but he became the WWF World Champion later on. And basically he is, and Sean Waltman, honestly, they had, they talked to Sean Waltman in this, and they had asked Sean Waltman, like, what's your opinion on Bret Hart? And he said, like, my honest opinion is, he is what he said he was. The best there is, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever would be. He was, honestly. Bret Hart was a great wrestler. It's unfortunate, once he went to WCW, that basically that was like the end of his career there. He did not continue on like he did in WWF, and that's really sad because he was one of my favorite wrestlers always growing up, and he still is one of my favorite wrestlers. I love to sit down and watch matches of Bret Hart. I love to sit down and watch, any interviews with Bret Hart, stuff like that, just to see what he has to say. But overall, this was a great short documentary that I would suggest that you guys sit down and take the time to watch. If you have if you do have the network, WWE Network. If not, I would suggest possibly signing up at least for 1 month at $9.99 and see if what piques your interest. Again, I will be doing that review and what is worth it more, the New Japan World or the WWE Network. But if you go under the documentaries and on the network and scroll down a little bit and you'll see it, and it's called The Holy Grail, the search for WWE's most infamous lost match. And on the thumbnail, it's an old picture of Bret Hart, and you will see it there. They also talk about basically how it came to be that the match was actually found later on was because Bret Hart had always kept a copy of every match he wrestled, and Bret Hart's secretary was having all of Bret Hart's matches transferred to DVD to save on space, and she had knew someone that was in Florida that could do it, and she had passed it on to her to do, and then she had told her, hey, go ahead, keep the VHS tapes, and long behold, she had found that match, and a lot of people weren't believing her when she posted online from what Cassius Ohno was saying, until she started posting little clips of it, and then they started believing, hey, she has the Holy Grail lost match that everybody, even at that point, back in the 90s when wrestling tape trading was popular, she had that Holy Grail match everyone was looking for. Overall, and then they sat down with Tommy McGee and do a short little interview. But overall, it's just a great watch. 29 minutes, real short. You can do that real quick. And I would just say overall, this week, this was probably the best thing I had sat down and watched, especially for it being so short. But go ahead and give it a watch and see what you think. Post below what you think if you did watch it. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell. And this was another episode of the Wrestling Collector Zone. You guys have a great night.